Our series on the top 100 NFL players entering 2024 continues today with players 75 to 51 on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Joe, very important clarification. The Jaguars are releasing their throwback uniforms tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
It was the video announcing their release that happened yesterday. And I know we talked about that yesterday.
The announcement for the announcement.
Correct. The announcement of the reveal was yesterday or Monday. I don't remember which one. And the actual uniforms will be revealed tomorrow.
I saw Joshua Hines Allen said that they're legit, so we'll trust him on that.
It's going to be hard to mess those up.
If you just literally give us the modern stitching.
What are the 95?
96, kit. Yeah, we're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
So
what else you got?
I mean, I feel like we had the pre-show. We had the opening conversation in our pre-show where you and I just talked all about Hard Knocks and the Giants in the offseason and that episode that came out last night, digging through the free agency. It was absolutely fascinating. And this is like I haven't had appointment TV like that's not a football game in a long time, but I got to watch these episodes of Hard Knocks as soon as they drop. And that was me. It was good practice as well for staying up.
Right. For the Chicago Bears version.
Well, just football games in general. I mean,
don't remind me.
Yeah, dude.
Stay up till 11:30 and then do a show up till 2 a.m. Well, you're up till 2 a.m. I'm up till 12:30 because I admire the deliberate nature of your pre-show process, but I can't do it that way.
Right,
we're two very different people as far as what the recording of a podcast looks like.
Yeah, you get it done a lot quicker than me.
Just take the mental inventory as best you can, push record, and let the words just
come out
of your mouth. We'll see what happens.
Obviously, they're got to have every bullet point, every piece of data to back up every point. Yeah, but it works. It works for us individually.
Yep.
Welcome, right? It's a continuation of our top 100 players in the NFL entering 2024. We gave you 10 honorable mentions and the first 25 players, so 100 to 76 yesterday. Today is the next 25, 75 to 51. This is, to me, these are the fun ones. I think once you kind of get into the top 50, top 25, you kind of know the names that are names you expect they're going to be there. It's kind of just how you stack them. This is kind of you could tell this is where a lot of our personal flavor is going to show up.
Yeah, and there's only one player the rest of the way that was not a universal player on both ballots.
Oh, and it's a surprising player too, isn't it?
Very surprising player for the context of why, how they made it.
That'll happen in segment 2. You'll find out who that guy is.
So let's start this off. If you missed the honorable mentions in 100 through 76, yesterday's show, stop here, go back, get caught up, and then come back to this moment right now. But Joe, I'll read through the first 5, and then we'll do 2 blocks of 10 in segment 2 and segment 3 since we took 5 minutes getting into it today. Pick the number 75, offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil from the Houston Texans. Number 74, linebacker C.J. Mosley with the New York Jets. Number 73, quarterback Jordan Love with the Green Bay Packers. Number 72, Breece Hall, running back of the New York Jets. And number 71, edge rusher Rashan Gary with the Green Bay Packers. That is 75 through 71.
So 2 Jets and 2 Packers in this opening block. I'm sure neither Packer player will be represented high enough for the Packers fans. But obviously a bright young quarterback.
Anymore.
Yeah, well, bright young quarterback here in Jordan Love. But Rashan Gary, to me, is the player I want to emphasize here, where quietly just becoming one of the more dynamic front seven defenders in the NFL, a versatile player. Fascinated to see how his role evolves with Jeff Hafley taking over. But I think the proof of concept for how he can win in a variety of ways and from a variety of alignments should lend itself to a lot of creativity for Jeff Hafley, along with some of the other dynamic players they have in that front with Kenny Clark, with Devontae Wyatt. So many different ways you could attack the pocket with those guys, not to mention some young edge rushers and Enigbari and Van Ness. There's a lot to like there, but Gary, to me, is the guy for that front seven and a player that was well represented on both ballots, and kind of curious to see what the pulse is. I know that we're going to see like the leagues, the players votes and all that next week, but he's a guy that I was glad that we both thought pretty highly of.
And I'll give some love to Breece Hall, who this past year bounced back from the injury that he suffered as a rookie in 2022 to have almost 300 touches, almost 1,600 yards from scrimmage, and 9 total touchdowns, averaged a healthy amount per clip, 4.5 yards per carry, despite the worst offensive line in football playing in front of him. So from a talent perspective, I think coming out of Iowa State, I think you and I, if I remember correctly, both kind of had some questions about like scheme translatability for Breece Hall. And I think his home run hitting has really transcended some of that. I do think systemically we're in a good place. And I think having a well-balanced offense with Aaron Rodgers, presumably a piece of the puzzle for them, will allow Breece Hall to be an even more impactful player. So he's a player who's made a lot with a little, particularly in year 2, and coming off of an injury, no less. So I think that's really impressive, and what he did really stood out to me, although he was a player that was in both of our top 100 ballots.
Yeah, like I think it's what you said there, doing a lot with a little, really speaks to Breece Hall and the playmaking opportunity that he has, because the offensive line was in shambles all season last year, and they're playing Zach Wilson at quarterback. So, I mean, if you're playing the Jets, you're thinking to yourself, all right, well, we'll let Zach Wilson beat us through the air. And teams still had a hard time slowing down Breece Hall. If that offensive line is healthy and that passing game what it can be, I mean, you're talking monster numbers incoming for Breece Hall in 2024. I'd like to give some love to CJ Mosley real quick here. Such an interesting situation when he signed that deal to come to the Jets, and a lot of conversation about it just being such a significant reset of the market. And, you know, even you saw so many different linebackers sign contracts after that where they didn't really touch that money. Well, it played out a little bit, and, you know, Mosley had injuries and stuff early on in his time with the Jets, but it's normalized that team has become, the defense has become more sound around him. And I think you've seen the reason that inspired the Jets originally, I know it was a different regime, pay CJ Mosley, and they've also extended him since, right, to continue with this group. And so, you know, letting that play out is they come out smelling like a rose, really, with CJ Mosley and his impact and his status in the league.
Nearly 1,200 snaps total played in each of the last 3 seasons after that year one, that disastrous year one where he was hurt after just a few games. And you heard Adam Gase was mad that they signed him in the first place and he didn't want him. And he's the centerpiece of that defense, right? For all the talent that exists up front, for all the talent that exists on the perimeter, he's the piece that ties it all together. And at this stage of his career, he's kind of probably getting closer to the tail end of like what the physical peak is for him. But he's such an instinctual player that he's still playing at a really high level and is one of the better linebackers in the league. I think he was one of our top 5 linebackers that we had graded in the league.
Certainly one of the best tackling linebackers in all of football. All right, folks, that's the first 5. 20 more players to get to today, so be sure to stick with us. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to, but FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. And folks, you may have noticed we have already gotten into 2 Packers, 2 Jets players, some Aaron Rodgers teammates. We might have some more coming up today. Here's some Aaron Rodgers props that you can check out over at FanDuel. They have Aaron Rodgers plus 200 to throw for over 4,000 yards. So if you think that's happening, go smash that. They have him at plus 200 to be the comeback player of the year. Certainly feel like that's well within the cards for him. How about this one? The over-under for passing touchdowns in 2024 for Aaron Rodgers is set at 25.5. So if you want to check out that and a whole lot more when it comes to NFL futures, head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
I don't know if you noticed, if you're watching on YouTube, I remember to take the lower third off.
Great job.
Which I did not do in segment 3 on yesterday's show until about halfway through. You didn't say anything to me.
Well, I saw it. I just thought
we got a bunch of extra free pub.
Yeah. Good for them. They had great sponsors. We appreciate them.
We do have great sponsors on the show. So a little extra love, I guess, doesn't hurt here or there. 70 through 61. Not a math guy, but let me make sure I get the right number here. 70 through 61. Number 70 on the Dudes 2024 NFL Top 100. Wide receiver Keenan Allen with the Chicago Bears. Number 69, defensive tackle Christian Wilkins with the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 68, wide receiver Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 67, safety Minkah Fitzpatrick with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 66, safety Jevon Holland with the Miami Dolphins. Number 65, tight end Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Number 64, running back Derrick Henry of the Baltimore Ravens. A couple more Green Bay Packers. Number 63 is Elgton Jenkins, offensive lineman. Just call him a lineman, right? He's played somewhere different, it feels like, for the last 3 seasons. Number 62, Jaire Alexander. And number 61, wide receiver Jaylen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins.
So what this has been the Dolphins and former Dolphins little chunk here.
Block here, yeah.
Right.
What's half this group?
Right. And even we had Tunsil in the opening segment for today. So interesting situation here. I guess this is the opportunity for us to mention Minkah Fitzpatrick was a player that Kyle Crabbs had 37th on his ballot.
Yep.
Joe Marino didn't have him as a top 100 NFL player.
He didn't have his best season last year. I'll give you that.
Certainly not. Yeah, well, it was definitely the worst season of his career. And I'm not saying that Minkah Fitzpatrick's not a very good player. I mean, what we wound up doing is every player that we didn't have mutual but was represented on one ballot, we stacked them at the end. And so I had Minkah Fitzpatrick as my second player off, right? So he's certainly knocking on the door. I just wonder sometimes with Minkah if his versatility is almost like the worst thing for him. Like, just
he would tell you it was because Brian Flores wanted to play him in the nickel, and he didn't want to do that, so he just left the team.
So he plays all over the place for the Steelers, and like, I think when you think about that unique role, and then like just the fact that he's been banged up, only just a little over. I don't even think he played 600 snaps in the regular season last year.
He did not. He was under.
Yeah, I think he kind of hurts them and having to play defense a different way. So I think it's clear when he's available that he's very good. But I don't know, man. Like I think the interceptions have been really good, and I think that obviously didn't have any last season, and I'm not trying to like overdo it there. He's on our list. We think he's a very good player. I just didn't feel overly inspired to include him.
I'll give him his flowers. The last 3 seasons in particular, he's become a much more consistent tackler, which was the big thing with Minkah in Miami. And then when he first got to Pittsburgh, you're seeing the double-digit missed tackle rates of 12, 13%. The last 2 seasons, those have been single digits for missed tackles. So that being an area of growth for Minkah. He didn't have the ball production last year, but like we said, he missed almost half the season. 2023, 2022, he was tied for the league lead in interceptions. So I looked at the full body of work. I knew what his strengths were. Seeing him over the past 2 seasons, even this past year with limited playing time, get better at, I think, what his biggest sticking point and sore spot was enough for me to rank him fairly highly. It did bring a little smile to my face, though, to see that our average scoring did put Jevon Holland one spot in front of him.
Right, not even on purpose, right? It's just kind of
Right.
way that worked out.
Way to play it out.
I'd rather have Holland, but
so can you give me a quick snippet on Jevon Holland, because he's a player that's going to a contract year. I have a bunch of Dolphins fans asking me, if Jevon Holland's so good, why doesn't he have any impact plays? Like,
what? What are you talking about?
Right. He had the great pick 6 against the Jets and ran it back for a touchdown, but like the ball production, like he doesn't have elite ball production. And it's like, I tried to get into a little bit and say, there's a lot of plays that aren't made and aren't tried to be made because of what Jevon Holland is capable of and what his range looks like and how well he tackles and fits from depth. So just give me 30 seconds for the Dolphins fans that don't want to hear it from me.
I would say the same things you just said. It's the deep range and like it's the deep zone coverage ability that takes a lot of the explosives away. And he's just has a very good feel for coverage spacing. But on top of that, how he does fit from depth. And like, I've seen Jevon Holland get Josh Allen down on the ground in ways that I don't see safeties do it. Just very instinctive, high energy player. Like every time you watch Jevon Holland, like there is juice that he brings to the table. Certainly like return ability as well. I think that he's like a legit stud safety that can do anything you want him to do and brings juice. Like I think it's fair to say, like, yeah, we would like to see more of like the Antoine Winfield splash plays.
Yeah.
But my goodness, I think they'll come. And I also think that players like Jevon Holland, with the scheme shifts that have happened in Miami, on top of like been a lot of different players around him in the secondary, I think that takes away from a player like Jevon Holland when, you know, different schemes, different players around him. You're going to want to kind of test some other areas that secondary more than you are Jevon Holland.
Right. All right. So let's get off the safeties. A couple wide receivers, a couple aging wide receivers, still putting up big time numbers in Keenan Allen and Mike Evans. Who do you think has a better year this year?
Mike Evans.
You think so?
Yeah. I Keenan Allen. I mean, he's playing with a rookie quarterback where there's just, they're going to want to run the ball, surely. And DJ Moore's the number one.
I think how much are we going to run the ball when we brought in Roma Dunze and Keenan Allen in the same offseason, though?
The best thing your offensive line does is run block. And you also brought in DeAndre Swift, and you have Rashan Johnson and Khalil Herbert. Like, with a rookie quarterback and a defensive minded head coach, you just feel naturally he's going to be conservative.
I don't disagree, but it's weird we invested that much in wide receivers to run the ball at one of the higher clips in the NFL.
Come on, man. Mike Evans doesn't not get 1,000 yards. It's part of the deal.
Right. It's him and you could roll your eyes about the Tomlin thing, but the two locks of the century the past decade are Evans gets 1,000 yards and Tomlin has a winning record. So
familiarity with the quarterback, and I know it's a different coordinator, but I think with Liam Cohen, like there are some things that, you know, they a little bit of time together with the Rams.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like they tried to do the best they could. I think they're going to throw. I'm nervous about that Bucs defense too. So passing yards, not as many players to take it away from him. I think he's going to be big time production.
Okay. I might, maybe that'll be a dude's bet. I might just take Keenan Allen. We'll have to define like the terms of it, but I would entertain Keenan Allen.
Real Kyle Crabbs, you're not doing it. You're not betting against Mike Evans once again, are you?
You know, he would just tweet me and says, "Who cares?" like he did the first time. So, anything else on this block? We got a couple Ravens and a couple Packers. Yeah. We got Waddle. We didn't touch on Jaylen Waddle. Like a lot of good players here.
Yeah, I think that's the two Ravens playmakers, right? Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews. That's what gets you excited about what's around Lamar Jackson. I don't think he's had a running back like Derrick Henry. Certainly turnover with the offensive line, but his go-to playmaker and then that backfield dynamic of Henry and Lamar Jackson, the power and slashing style. I mean, good Lord, that's going to be a load to deal with.
It's interesting, and I know this is more of a Lamar talking point, but I do think it is interesting. Like, he cut weight this offseason to get more explosive.
Yeah. They want that contrast, it would seem.
And that's going to create a lot of headaches. Would you expect we get a lot of pistol?
Sure.
I would.
Yeah.
Right? Give Henry all of the tracks, whether it's downhill or either side of the formation. You don't want him running out of the gun. But it's where you can get into some of the zone read stuff. I'd run a lot of pistol if I were Baltimore. Now, we have another 10 names, including a Joe Marino brand player who's in the next block. We have a couple of Buffalo Bills. We have another New York Jet. No more Green Bay Packers, though. So we'll get into that after the break.
So be sure to stick with us. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're not looking in the right place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
I have a random question for you.
Yeah.
And it just came up just because of what's on my timeline as we're getting through the break. You have to start a hobby. Which one of these two hobbies would you rather start?
Okay. All right.
Glass blowing or pottery?
Pottery.
Why?
I don't want to deal with glass. And pottery kind of looks fun where that thing's spinning and you get your hands going. And,
right, but the glass blowing is the same thing. It's like the liquid version of glass that you
don't you have to like heat it up?
Yes.
I knew a guy that did this, and all he could ever think about was getting wine bottles, right? He wanted everybody's wine bottle all the time. And I like went to his house. He was like melting them all the time. I'm like, dude, get out of here with all this weird stuff. I'd much rather do the pottery.
You don't want to bum your friends off for all their recyclables.
No, dude. He was like,
and turn them into new pieces of art.
Right. I'd rather just give me the clay and we'll make some stuff. We'll paint them up. You know, I like gardening. I could turn that stuff into like flowers and stuff, man.
Yeah.
I'm doing what are you doing? The glass blowing or the pottery?
I think it'd be a cooler hobby than pottery.
Yeah. I'm going with practicality, not melting glass.
Right. Yeah.
Don't need that around.
That checks out.
Yeah.
All right. 60 through 51. Nearing the halfway point. Here are the 10 players in the final block for today's reveal of the Dudes 2024 NFL Top 100. Cornerback Trent McDuffie, Kansas City Chiefs. Number 60, number 59, linebacker Matt Milano, Buffalo Bills. Number 58, offensive tackle Dion Dawkins, Buffalo Bills. Number 57, wide receiver Garrett Wilson, New York Jets. Number 56, Montez Sweat, edge rusher, Chicago Bears. Number 55, Danielle Hunter, edge rusher, Houston Texans. Joe, come on back to me. This is a daily occurrence now. Number 54, wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, Detroit Lions. Number 53, interior offensive lineman Zach Martin, Dallas Cowboys. Welcome back, Joe. Number 52, edge rusher Trey Hendrickson, Cincinnati Bengals. And number 51, center Tyler Linderbaum, Baltimore Ravens. What is happening? This is 2 days in a row. I'm reading.
You know exactly what's happening. My ability to hear you goes away, so I have to refresh the studio. I don't know the answer. I'm gonna install some.
Stop touching your cords.
I'm not touching any cords. It just happens, man. I hate it. Trust me.
Imagine not watching on YouTube and missing Joe just blipping like a Thanos snap from existence on the show mid list. So Joe, we read 60 to 51.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the names. I saw it in advance. Had an opportunity. You mentioned a brand player for me is in this block, and that brand player is Trey Hendrickson, who I put 29 on my personal ballot. I think he's an animal, man. I love watching Trey Hendrickson, one of my favorite edge rushers in the entire league to watch. And the numbers are there. Part of what I love about Pro Football Focus is that they count all half sacks as regular sacks, right? So like everything is a 1. There's no such thing as a half sack. 2 of the last seasons, he's had 20 sacks. He's had north of 70 pressures in each of the last 3 seasons. I mean, this guy is not only making an impact, but I love the way he plays the game. I think it's as hot of a motor as you'll find in the league, and his pass rush impact has been as good as any pass rusher in the NFL over the last 3 seasons.
I think there's a really good, familiar with O-line masterminds, I know you are.
Mm-hmm.
They just had this year's convention earlier this month. And a couple of people that I really respect on the social networks that are in football media talked about some of the conversations I believe Teron Armstead gave in his kind of lecture there about the value of edge rushers with power. And I think Trey Hendrickson's kind of a poster child for that, right? Where he has first step explosiveness and he can win in a lot of different ways. But if I think about Trey Hendrickson and what encapsulates like him being such an impactful player, it's the power elements of his game that really pop.
Can shave that edge, right?
Yeah.
How about Garrett Wilson? Has had no quarterbacks whatsoever.
He's actually had a lot of quarterbacks. That's part of the problem.
None of them good. Over 1,000 yards. Like you felt. And what was your prediction going into last season? And spoiler, we're going to do bold predictions here very soon.
Yeah, 1,500 yards was the prediction for Garrett Wilson. I
mean, if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, you feel like he gets it. He had 1,042 with Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian and whoever else they threw out there to play, Tim Boyle.
Here's the stat that says the most to me about Garrett Wilson through his first 2 seasons. He has 315 targets in his first 2 seasons in the NFL with a catch percentage of 56.5%.
Gosh. He's open too.
Targets, and he's open.
He's open, man.
So this is 125 catch per season type of talent. And if he's averaging better than the 12 yards per catch he's averaged in his NFL career because of the catches with the degree of difficulty that he has to make. I mean, if he averaged 13 yards per catch on 125 receptions, it's over 1,600 yards. I think that's the stratosphere of player we're talking about here.
I think a guy that we have to get into from this block is a Kyle Crabbs brand player, a top 25 player on your ballot. Comes in at 51, and Tyler Linderbaum, the center from the Baltimore Ravens.
Stud. And he's been everything that you thought that maybe he could be. His development as a player to be a very well-rounded piece. I think he's an excellent glue piece in the middle of that offensive line. Him and Kyle Hamilton, the same draft class, just really chaps your rear end, right? Because you knew both of those guys. You knew what they were. And Baltimore got their hands on both of them, and they have become the complete versions of the types of players that were on the scouting report of this is what I think this guy can be. And they are going to be cornerstones for a really long time for Baltimore. At the center position, Linderbaum in particular, he gets a lot of tough draws as far as assignments. And that's one-on-ones and anchoring, and the anchor's been good. You think about the other player that was kind of considered the same type of athlete in recent history, and it was Garrett Bradbury, right? Garrett Bradbury at NC State's like, man, he can really move. Want to see him maybe get a little bit stronger, and it never necessarily happened for him. It's happened for Linderbaum, the leveraging, the ability to anchor and keep the center of the pocket firm. It's all there. And then the mobility and range and range in zone concepts and backside cutoffs and getting up for the second level and playing in space and screen games and getting out in front of Lamar. And it's all there. And it will not take long for me. I don't think I had another center in front of him, but if I did, like next year, he's going to be a top center on my board. And I can't imagine he'll be lower than 25th next year either.
I gotta shout out one guy for me, and that is Dion Dawkins. And you had him, dude. You had him so much higher than me. I'm like,
Dion Dawkins,
dude. It's a great question. I feel stupid. But 3 consecutive Pro Bowl seasons, and I thought he's coming off of like very clearly his best season. And you
just don't ask the executives,
brother. I was absolutely stunned.
Jeremy Fowler poll didn't have him in the top 10.
I know you've watched a good amount of Bills tape, but like the amount of the rushing offense that went through him is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't normally see this in the NFL where he's either the play side blocker or they pulled him to become the play side blocker. The Bills ran like tackle wrap dart over and over like all season long. And the reason they did is because they have extremely athletic tackles in Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, but like they pulled Dawkins all season long and just got yards over and over again. And not to mention he's a standout pass protector. So Dion Dawkins, like I know he's entering his age 30 season, but man, he is aging like a fine wine.
Yeah, it's the thing that stands out the most is in protection, the power to me is the thing that stands out the most as far as being really impressive with him, both how he stonewalls past rushers, but then also what he brings. You mentioned him been playing tackle wrap and pulling him around and getting him momentum into first contact at the point of attack. If you had to guess which player, and we'll omit Tyler Linderbaum because I already voted for him 25th, a player that cracks the top 30 next year, most likely out of this block.
Ooh. Oh. Is the easy answer Garrett Wilson?
I think that's the easy answer. I have a different answer.
Okay, I'll make it more fun. I'll go Trent McDuffie.
That's the other name that I have as well.
He's going to step into that L'Jarius Sneed, follow everyone around, roll, shut them all down. I don't think he had an interception last year. I think that'll change this coming season. But like, it's not because he doesn't have ball skills. He is such a sticky corner that tackles. I think he's going to pop in a big way for that KC defense.
He does not have a single career interception.
It's insane, but he was a first team All-Pro, and nobody batted an eye, right?
Right.
So neither of the first and second team All-Pro slot corners in the AFC, neither one had an interception last year. That's pretty fascinating, right?
Well, it's such a high variance stat, right?
Right.
The nature of that, they tend to come in bunches when they come, especially if you have a drought with them. And Trent McDuffie being a more featured piece of that secondary and getting more assignments, I have a feeling you're going to see more of it. And that is all you're going to see of our top 100 list for today. We have another 50 players left to reveal. We will work through them in the next 2 days here on the show. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He's Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Make it a great rest of your Wednesday. Talk to y'all again tomorrow.